So obviously I recorded last week's podcast before Anthony Weiner's big press conference where he copped to the fact that the crotch shot was his. And in the intervening week, in the last few days, other shots have emerged. Anthony Weiner's pretty remarkably foxy chest for a man his age, and other crotch shots, and of course the full frontal Anthony Weiner's hard cockpit. And in this time, everyone's kind of lost their minds. We're having another American sex scandal kerfuffle. We're really good at them. And I have to say that I watched the press conference last Monday, and I'm a lefty. I'm a liberal. I believe in a free press. I hate Sarah Palin, all her lamestream media comments. But if I had the power during Anthony Weiner's press conference to send hate rays back through the television set that would have ended the lives of every reporter in the room, I would have done it. The hypocrisy, the fucking know-nothing, scolding, bullshit, sex-negative, idiotic bullshit, I can't even think of another word, on display in that meeting. Oh, you must have a problem, Anthony Weiner, a drinking problem. Are you going to seek addiction counseling? My head was about to explode. Anthony Weiner is guilty of doing what tens of millions of other Americans do every day, but they don't have the right wing and Andrew Breitbart on their asses scouring the web and their Twitter accounts and everything else, looking for evidence of what? Of what? What did Anthony Weiner do? He flirted online with some folks. Nobody complained. None of these women that he engaged in these dirty chats with and swap photos with, none of them complained. They didn't step forward saying my eyes were brutally assaulted by the sight of Anthony Weiner's undie-clad schlong. No, they were dragged into the public square by the right-wing hate machine that had it in for Anthony Weiner because he was such a good spokesperson for left-wing causes, for the left, for the Democrats. And they had it in for him. And now they're all calling for his resignation, as are some Democrats who I'd also like to joke, calling for his resignation. Some of the very same Democrats, Tim Kaine, I'm talking to you, who defended Bill Clinton, who blew a load on an intern in the Oval Office and then lied under oath about it. And we all said, we lefties and all we Democrats at that moment, we said he lied about something that any man has a right and a responsibility to lie about. He was asked questions that no one should be asked. The president was Clinton at the time. And that when those kinds of questions are asked, you have a right to lie. Well, Weiner asked questions about something that he had a right to lie about, just the same as Bill Clinton had a right to lie about blowing a load consensually on Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office. So I'm a little annoyed with hypocritical Democrats and also lying sack of shit-eating, shit-fucking Republicans. David Vitter is a U.S. Senator. David Vitter the shitter, caught up in the D.C. Madam prostitution scandal. David Vitter was breaking the law. David Vitter was employing prostitutes. David Vitter made phone calls to the D.C. Madam from the floor of the U.S. Congress during sessions to arrange for illegal sex for hire trysts. I think it should be legal. I said when the Vitter scandal broke, I don't think he should resign. I don't think what he did should be illegal. And I don't think he should resign. And he hasn't. But Republicans are calling on Weiner to resign because of, bringing disgrace on the House. Well, and there's squats David Vitter, reelected again on a family values platform in the U.S. Senate. And they're not calling on him to resign. But again, I want to get back to the media. I want to get back to these questions in this press conference. Does he have a problem? My favorite question was this. Why would you do this after you were married? That was put to Anthony Weiner during his press conference where he was copping to those dick shots being his. Because Lord knows nobody goes online and flirts or masturbates, looks at, downloads porn, or creates through the interactiveness of the web their own porn moments. No married person does that. The World Wide Web is just this jack-off-a-thon for single people. You know what? Members of Congress, like members of the press, get horny sometimes. And sometimes male members of Congress, like male members of the press, think with their dicks. And sometimes married men Rub one out with an assist from the World Wide Web. My media colleagues film at fucking 11. Wiener was horny and went online and flirted and beat it a few times. He created his own porn, like millions of other Americans have done and will continue to do every damn day, forever. And the internet provided Wiener, the married man, with the same thing it provides for tens of millions of other men in monogamous relationships. A little release, a little fodder, and, you know, all this shit about, oh, he's married in this monogamous relationship. He didn't touch any of these women. And I believe that for a lot of married men, the internet porn, even the interactivity of some of these sites, they don't threaten their monogamous commitment. They make it possible. That by providing a little of the variety and sexual adventure that men and women are both hardwired to want and seek in a safe way. Because you can interact with somebody, you can get off, you can get horny, you can reach out, you can feel affirmed as a sexual being without ever being in the same room with anyone else. Another reporter asked Wiener if he had a drinking problem or was using drugs at the time because, you know, only a man who was drunk or on drugs could get caught up in something like this. Do reporters know what men are like, and lots of women too? This desire to pathologize behavior that isn't sick, that is, you know, really common and human and completely and instantly understandable, that itself is pathological. Wiener does not have a problem. Wiener has a computer. It is the same problem that all Americans these days have. We have computers, and sometimes we make fools of ourselves on them. And think of your own life. Think of the shit you've done online. If it was dragged out into the public eye, as this has been dragged out in the public eye, would your relationship survive? Would your professional life survive? No. Everyone's talking about what Wiener did. You know what? Something was done to Wiener and his family. His wife. And now I want to talk about his wife for just a second. Came out that she's pregnant after this all broke, and that Joan Walsh at Salon says, oh, now he must resign because his wife is pregnant. It's gone too far. It's too humiliating. It's fine to humiliate a married, non-pregnant woman, but to humiliate a married, pregnant woman, then you're humiliating for two and you got to go. I don't get it. I don't get why, Joan, the pregnancy tips us over into Wiener must resign territory. If I were pregnant and Wiener were my husband, I would prefer that he still have a fucking job next week. I would rather, like, get through this pregnant and everything with my husband being employed. And you know who's not being taken into consideration whenever it's debating about whether Wiener should resign? The people of New York, who've been polled. 50%, 51%, a majority think he should not resign. 30% think he should resign. And I realize I'm shouting now. I just get upset when I see everyone pretend to not know what they do know about human sexuality and the way it works, and this sort of willful obtuseness on the part of the media that plays into American sex phobia and hypocrisy about sex, this posturing. But I'll just end with this poll. You know, a majority of Wiener's constituents do not want him to resign. And here's what the pollsters, here's the analysis that they run with at ABC News about this. It's worth keeping in mind that New York is overwhelmingly Democratic. Partisanship can run high in this town. Moral outrage, maybe less so, said ABC News pollster Gary Langer of Langer Research Associates. Yes, let's all keep in mind the delicate sensibilities of people who don't live in New York City, of people who are not Wiener's constituents, of people who are prone to partisanship, these people who live in New York, as opposed to, you know, all those fair-minded folks who live out there in real America with Sarah Palin. They're not prone to partisanship. Let's keep in mind, as we figure out whether Wiener should resign, that his constituents who do not want him to resign are not jumping on the moral outrage bandwagon with shit-eating Republicans and hypocritical Democrats. Let's keep that in mind, shall we? But there's just one more thing I got to say. I'm sorry. I'm going on forever here. There's just one more thing I got to say. You know, everyone is talking now about Wiener like he's a congressman, and he had to know that this could happen, that these pictures could surface and be made public, and that was reckless, and it displayed a kind of bad judgment that, you know, we can't have in Congress. We wouldn't want bad judgment in Congress. Not now. Not after 200 plus years of a bad judgment-free Congress. And I just got to point out that maybe now sitting Congress critters and senators are having to make the decision about whether to take a picture of their junk and put it online and you know, the considerable risks that represents. But Congresses 20 years from now are going to be solely comprised of people 30 years from now who have already taken pictures of their junk and put them online. Every teenager in America is online, is flirting, dating, putting up internet profiles, looking for love, is sending pictures of their junk, sexting. So soon we will have a Congress that is entirely Anthony Wieners. And what are we going to do then? Are we really saying that the only people who are fit to serve in the U.S. Congress are people who have never gone online and done anything inappropriate? Because what we're asking for then is really to be ruled by the Amish, because they're the only ones who aren't going to have an internet history that could potentially embarrass them come adulthood. Ugh.